the face that haunted him most nights, and he smiled. "You'd be so proud of him, Leah." Kneeling down, he began to dig at the base of the statue, moving the dirt aside until he found what he was looking for. The box looked exactly as it had when he found it in the tower so many years earlier. The three-headed dragon entwined, holding a blue rose in its talons, wiping the dust from the wood, made the image come to life, as if it had just been painted yesterday. He opened the box and checked its contents. Once he was sure they were all there, he moved behind the statue and opened the base to find the other object, long and slim and wrapped in a sheet. He took it and the box and headed back inside. Jon woke up earlier than usual. He quickly dressed and left the room, figuring he'd have a little time to train before breaking his fast. As he walked towards the training area, he saw a figure enter through the opposite door, moving closer. He saw it was his father, carrying something in his hands. He almost shouted out a hello until he saw his father's face, which made him reconsider. His father looked as if the last thing he wanted was to be spoken to, so Jon left him be and continued on his way. Jaime could get addicted to porridge and honey. What had started, firstly as a warm meal to break his fast on these cold northern mornings, had quickly become something he would make sure would be served in Casterly Rock from now on. He decided to have a second bowl, and as he motioned to the serving girl to bring it in, he saw Jon enter the room, sweat running down his brow. He looked as if he'd been training yet again. Jaime admired his dedication. Not every young lad would put in a training session before breaking their fast. He motioned the young lad over, deciding he'd like some company while eating the second bowl of porridge, and besides, the boy would no doubt eat on his own otherwise. Lord Jaime. "Sit down, lad. Break your fast with me." Jon looked pensively at him before looking around the room. After a moment, and obviously finding whatever it was he wanted to find, he sat down. "Were you out training again, lad?" "Aye, Lord Jaime, I was." "Good lad. The more you apply yourself, the better you'll become. In no time at all, you'll be taking victories from everyone, even from me." Jon smiled a full smile at him before shaking his head. "I doubt that, my lord. Everyone knows you're the best swordsman in Westeros. Not even Sir Barristan can beat you. I've no chance." "True, lad. Right now you've no chance, but mark my words, one day you'll be taking victories from me and everyone else. Then you'll be the best swordsman in Westeros." Jon looked at him with awe, the smile on his face even bigger than before. Jaime nudged him on the shoulder, making him laugh out loud as the serving girl brought the porridge and Jon's plate filled with sausages and bacon. The two of them tucked in, talking and laughing with each other as they ate. And then Gerion came in, his breeches around his legs, shouting, "Where is the little sod?" Jon was curled over, tears falling from his face as Jaime shared stories of the adventures he and Tyrion got up growing up in the Rock. Jaime, too, couldn't stop himself from laughing as he looked at the boy. He turned to drink some of the warm milk he washed his porridge down with, and when he turned back to Jon, he saw the laughter had stopped, the smile had disappeared, and instead Jon was looking down at his empty plate, a look of worry on his face. Jaime wondered what had happened to change the mood so quickly. Looking around, he saw Ned and Cat enter the hall, the scowl on the Trout's face quickly explaining Jon's sudden mood change. "Don't worry, lad. Soon you won't have to deal with her pettiness anymore." Later that day, Jaime headed to Ned's solar. Stark wanted to see him before they told Jon about Jaime's offer. He walked past the guard who opened the door as he got there. Clearly, he was expected. "Sit down, Lord Jaime. There are things we need to discuss." Jaime took the offered seat, worried that perhaps Stark was going to backtrack. Perhaps he was going to call his bluff. Jaime had admitted he cared for Jon's welfare. Had he said too much? Was Stark now sure he'd never reveal the secret and was going to refuse to allow Jon to leave? "Before I speak to Jon, there are some things we should clear up." "Very well, Lord Stark. Call me Ned. This lord nonsense gets tiring when it's only the two of us speaking." "First name status, aren't I special?" Jaime quipped. "Damn it, Lannister, I'm trying to be civil." "Very well then, Ned," the smirk still on his face, clearly annoying Stark. "There are things that belong to Jon. Things his mother kept for him. Things I may not have ever given him if we hadn't spoken." "What things?" "I never meant for Jon to be treated differently. It was never meant to be like this." "Ah, confession time." "Is it, Lord Stark? Very well. Confess away." "I'll listen, if I must. Just as long as this leads to me leaving with Rhaegar's son, I'll put up with your inane drivel if that's the price." At first it helped the story. What woman would love her husband's bastard? It was to be expected that she'd be distant. Even that she may be mean to the lad. Oh, she'd never touch a hair on his head, but I let it go on because it kept him safe. Jaime sighed. But I suppose I never thought how badly it'd affect Jon. Of course you didn't. What you said you was right. I put Robert's reign over my nephew. I did it to protect Jon, but you're right. I did it for Robert as well. I still think it's too dangerous for Jon to make a claim, but it should never be my decision to make once I decided not to claim for him. Ned stood from the table and walked to the back of the room. He returned carrying a box and something wrapped in a sheet, laying them out on the table. He looked at Jaime and pointed towards them. Jon's birthright! Jaime looked from the table to Ned. After receiving a nod, he reached over and opened the box. Inside, he found some papers, a piece of material wrapped around a round object, and a golden harp. Is this? It is. This is Rhaegar's harp. Aye, it is. Jaime looked at the harp with reverence on his face. No one who knew Rhaegar could forget the times he played that harp. The sounds he was able to get from it were otherworldly, his hands shaking. He lifted it up, the strings still as tight as they ever were. He carefully put it back down and picked up the papers. A marriage certificate between Rhaegar and Lyanna, signed by the Septon and witnessed by Sir Arthur and Sir Oswell, as well as a notice of annulment between Rhaegar and Elia, signed by them both. There's also a letter from Elia to her brothers explaining her choice. Jaime was stunned. Stark had all the evidence which proved that the rebellion was built on a lie. If Robert ever found out he'd lose his head, then Stark would lose his. The other two are Jon's birth announcements, one for a girl and one for a boy. They hadn't been sure, so they went with both. Jaime looked at the documents. We hereby announce the birth of our son, Jaehaerys Targaryen, second in line to the throne after his brother Aegon. Signed by his parents, Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Targaryen, witnessed by Sir Gerald Hightower, Sir Oswell Went, Sir Arthur Dayne. The other document was pretty much the same, except for it being for a Visenya. Jaime placed the documents back in the box and took the material-wrapped object in his hand. The heaviness of it surprised him, and he looked up to see Stark wipe a tear from his eye. Liar's maiden cloak. Jaime nodded, understanding how difficult it must be for Ned to look at the cloak. Given what happened, he unwrapped it and almost dropped what it was covering. He had never seen one before, never even knew anyone who had. But it was clear as day. He was holding a dragon egg. The white swirls with flecks of blue shone in the small solar, and Jaime turned it over and over, looking at it in amazement. As he did, he noticed a small letter fall from the beneath where the cloak had covered the egg. He looked at it and at Stark. What's this? I don't know. I've never seen it before. He picked up the letter and saw one word written on it. Jaehaerys. He handed it to Ned, who looked at it before smiling. Liar's handwriting. They looked at each other, coming to a silent conclusion. This was not for them. It was Jon's between him and his mother, and they would leave it to him to open it eventually. Jaime wrapped the egg back in the cloak, placing both things back into the box. He made sure he got everything inside before closing the lid. Then he looked at Ned, who was handing him the final object, something long and skinny and wrapped in a sheet. Wait, no, that wasn't a sheet, that was a banner, a specific banner. That was Rhaegar's personal banner. The three-headed dragon holding a sword in one talon and a harp in the other. Taking the object from Ned, he unwrapped it quickly, excitement building in his chest based on what he'd found so far. He almost dropped it when he uncovered it. This can't be it is though, isn't it? Aye, that's Dark's sister all right. How? Where? How? Was first to him something. Jon was worried. He'd been caught again. The first time Lady Catelyn had made it clear he was to keep away from nobles like Lord Jaime. But the thing was, Jaime wasn't like other noble lords. He was different. He didn't look down on Jon like they did. He talked to him, listened to him. He even sparred and trained with him. When Jon was with Jaime, he didn't feel like a bastard. He felt like a true-born son. He felt the way he thought Robb must feel when lords speak to him, when they compliment him. No one ever bothered to make Jon feel like that, but now he had ruined it. He'd been warned and got caught, and now his father wanted to see him. Jon hated disappointing his father more than anything in the world, and now he'd done it twice in 2 days. Here you go, lad. Your father's waiting for you inside, Sir Roderick said as he motioned for him to enter the solar. Ah, Jon, good. Take a seat, lad. Jon looked around the solar nervously. Lady Catelyn sat beside his father, her face in what Jon thought was a permanent scowl. Or, no, that's not true. She smiles sometimes, just never at me. Jon fidgeted in his seat, the worry starting to rush over him. If Lady Catelyn was here, then it was serious. Whatever excuse Jon gave, she was sure to ignore or shout down. Jon was in trouble, and he knew it. Sorry, Lord Stark, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Hush, lad, you're not in trouble, far from it. Jon looked at his father in confusion. If he wasn't in trouble, then why was he asked to come here? Why was Lady Catelyn here? Jon, Lord Jaime has come to me with a proposal, an offer for your future. He wishes to take you on as a page and then as a squire. He wants you to earn your knighthood with him. Jon felt his heart swell. A knighthood, he had never imagined such a thing. He looked at his father's smiling face and then to Lady Catelyn's, whose expression had changed into one he knew all too well, disgust. Aye, lad, he says he sees great potential in you, that you have it in you to be a great swordsman one day. Lady Catelyn scoffed and his father shot her a reproving look. Jon couldn't believe what he heard. Him, a great swordsman. Jaime had said it to him before, but he figured he was just being nice. But no, he said it to his father too and wanted him to be a knight, so it must be true, mustn't it? It'll mean you leaving Winterfell, though. You'd have to travel back with Lord Jaime when he departs, so you can take up your duties. Jon looked between his father and Lady Catelyn again, the words entering his head as he noticed the expressions on both their faces. His father looked sad while Lady Catelyn had a smile on her face. That's it! That's how she's punishing me! She's forced father to make me leave, and he convinced Jaime to take pity on his bastard. Jon jumped up from the seat, tears running down his face, and ran to his room. Jon, what's wrong, lad? But the words were missed to him as he ran towards his room. Gone! They want me gone! What have I done? Why do they hate me? He slammed the door shut behind him and fell onto the bed, his tears flowing freely. It took a few moments, but it felt like hours before Jon heard the knocking at his door. He knew it was his father, and as much as he wanted to keep his door shut, he knew he had no choice, so he wiped his face and got up to open the door. He was right. There was his father, a worried look on his face. Lad, what's wrong? Talk to me. Why are you throwing me out? Father, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. Please, don't let them take me away. Ned looked at the tear-stricken face of his nephew. He could hear the sniffles in his voice as he spoke. Had he messed even this up? Could he do nothing right? Jon, I'm not, and will never throw you out. You hear me? Winterfell is your home. It's yours for as long as you want it to be. You mean it. Aye, lad, of course I mean it. Jon threw his arms around his father, and for the first time almost since he was born, Ned hugged his nephew. He felt him relax against him, and felt the sniffling begin to subside. So he decided now was the time to speak to him like he should have in the first place. Having Cat there had been a mistake. He saw that now, but he thought the idea would have pleased Jon. Had he misread things, he needed to find out. Jon, the offer from Lord Jaime is real. He felt his nephew stiffen against him. He really does think you have the potential to be a knight and would like the chance to train you. This isn't about throwing you out. This is a real opportunity for you, Jon. But if it's not what you want, then that's fine. I only want what's best for you. But I'd have to leave, wouldn't I? Aye, you would, lad. But it wouldn't have to be gone forever. You could come back and visit. And when you're a knight, you could come back for good, if you want. It's up to you, lad. Ned helped him over to the bed, settling him down. He gave him his warmest smile. Pleased to see Jon return it, he tucked him in and ruffled his hair, getting a small pout that reminded him so much of his mother. It hurt. He sat down on the bed beside him. Listen, why don't you sleep on it? Ok, have a word with Lord Jaime in the morning and then decide what you want. If you want to go for it, then do it, and if you want to stay, then do that. No one will force you to do anything you don't want. Jon, I promise you. Ned shuddered softly as the words left his lips. Hopefully he could keep this promise better than the last one. Jon nodded and shut his eyes, the events clearly taking a toll on him, so Ned got up and walked to the door. Looking back, he could see his nephew was already fast asleep. Jon woke up feeling much better. He didn't have to leave if he didn't want to, but did he want to? That was something he wasn't sure about. To become a knight, have a future. He dreamed of those things, to be away from Winterfell, from Robb, Sansa, little Arya and his father. That was the stuff of nightmares. But Winterfell also meant Lady Catelyn. She hated him. She would always hate him. And while his father said he didn't have to leave, she made it hard to want to stay. He needed to talk to Lord Jaime. He needed to know that he wasn't being offered this chance because of pity. If he really did believe in him, then perhaps leaving wasn't so scary. Jaime was nowhere to be found. Had he left already? Did he miss his chance? What would he do if he had left? Jon felt as if he'd messed up completely. If he'd just said yes when his father told him he could have left with him. Instead, he let himself cry like a baby. He was about to do so again. He could feel the tears welling in his eyes. So there you are. He turned around to see Lord Jaime staring at him intently. Relief filled his heart when he realized he had another chance to take his offer, but the little voice in his head reminded him that it may be because he pitied him. Aye, you oak lad. Father told me that you may am. Ah, he told you about my offer to have you be my page, did he? Yeah, he said you thought I could be a knight. Not just any knight, lad, a true knight like Sir Arthur Dayne or Aemon the Dragon Knight. Jon was stunned. Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, Aemon the Dragon Knight. These weren't just knights, these were legends. Sir Arthur was the greatest swordsman that ever lived, and Aemon was the noblest knight ever. But I'm a bastard. Is your heart less pure than a true-born son? Jon, is your skill lesser because of your name? You think I have skill. Everything I've said to you since I've been here, Jon, has been true, so listen to me now. I've never seen anyone as skilled as you are at your age. Even those who have years on you are less skilled than you. So, young man, what do you say? Do you have it in you to prove them all wrong? To show that you're not just good, but that you can be better than all of them? Will you be my page, Jon Snow? Jon looked at him. He saw the truth in his eyes. He meant it. It wasn't pity or trying to find favor with his father. He was the white lion of Khan. He wanted to train Jon because he saw something in him, something he wanted to polish and hone, something he saw in no one else. For the first time, Jon felt a sense of pride overwhelm him. Aye, my lord, it'd be an honor. Of course it would, Jaime replied before the two started laughing. Earlier that day, Jon and Robb had said their goodbyes. Tears shared between them, but both swore to write, and Jon promised to return as soon as he was able. They hugged, and Jon went to say goodbye to the rest of his siblings. He walked to the nursery, where little Arya would hopefully be awake. He wanted to look into her eyes as he said goodbye rather than say the words to a sleeping child. Luckily for him, Arya was an active baby. She'd grow to be a wild little wolf, he thought as he approached the crib. Hello, little one. It's your big brother, Jon. I love you, little sister, so much. Please don't forget me. I won't forget you. He looked at the babe with tears in his eyes. Young as he was, he knew it was hopeless. The chance that she'd remember him was pretty much naught. He doubted even that his name would be spoken if Lady Catelyn got her way. He almost ran from the nursery, his emotions getting the better of him. Sansa was, as usual, by her mother's side, with Septa Mordane hovering in the background like she always did. Jon nervously approached, the scowl on Lady Catelyn's face easy to read, as always. He didn't even need to look at her to know she wore that scowl. It was her go-to expression when he was around. What do you want, boy? I came to say goodbye to my sister. Catelyn glared at him, pulling Sansa tighter to her. Do it and be gone. He approached as closely as he dared and looked down at the little red-haired angel that was his sister. She smiled at him and then frowned. He noticed that her mother had almost yanked her back when she saw the smile on her face. Sansa, I came to say goodbye. No, you stay. I can't, Sansa. I can't, Sansa. I'm going to be a knight. I'm going to miss you, sister. He watched as the little girl nodded before running over to give him a hug, tears filling his eyes as she gripped him tightly. Before he could even begin to let go, though Lady Catelyn was pulling her daughter from his arms, her face a mixture of hate and disgust that Jon knew only too well. Very well, boy. You've said your goodbyes, now go. She turned with Sansa in her arms and walked back to the scepter, both women looking satisfied that the bastard would no longer be around to corrupt her precious children. He left the room as quickly as he could without running from it, heading straight to the one place he could be alone and not be bothered, the crypts. It was there later that Jaime found him crying in front of the statue of his aunt. Jaime shook his head, clearing the memory as he turned to see Jon looking back at the castle with a last look. Come, Jon. The rock awaits, and we have a long way ahead of us. A few weeks later, weeks had flown in. He'd seen places he'd only ever heard about in conversations around Winterfell. They had followed the king's road and stopped for a night at Castle Selwyn. It was there they and the king's retinue had parted ways. As Jaime said, they moved too slow for him, although Jon got the feeling that he really just didn't like the king. The Selwyns had thrown a feast to celebrate having the king in their castle, and as usual the king had enjoyed himself to the fullest. Jon sat at the back, stunned that Jaime sat with him rather than at the high table with the king, although given how the king behaved, it shouldn't have been that surprising. "You boy, the king wishes to speak to you," the stern Merentrant said as he tugged on his shoulder. "What does he want?" Jaime asked, annoyed by the presence of his former brother. "He wants to speak to the bastard Kingslayer." Onthornteth in the hall were upon him. "Ah, let me get a look at you, boy. Aye, you're Ned's bastard all right, off to be a knight, are you? Hopefully your grace. Kingslayer, where are you? Get up here." Jaime left his seat and reluctantly walked to the front of the hall. A small part of him had worried that the king might recognize someone other than Stark in the boy, but the king saw what he wanted to, and, besides the way he was eyeing the bosom of the serving girl, probably had his mind on other things. "Yes, your grace. So gonna make a knight out of Ned's boy, are you, Kingslayer?" "Undoubtedly, your grace, the boy is talented. Just like his father, then. Indeed, your grace, very much so." "Boy, did you know your father slew Sir Arthur Dayne, killed the damned Sword of the Morning in single combat? By the gods, what I'd have given to see that fight." Jaime grimaced at the king's words. There was no way in hell Stark could defeat Arthur, not in single combat, not with numbers on his side. How it had happened he didn't know, but there had to be trickery or underhandedness involved, although given Ned Stark's precious honor, he wasn't sure how that could be. "You'll be just as good, no doubt, won't you, boy?" "I hope so, your grace. Humble, just like your old man. A fine knight you'll be." The rest of the night passed quickly, and they had moved on the next morning. They had seen the mighty moat Caelan, and despite it being in disrepair, Jon could see why no one had ever taken the fortress. They passed through the neck, and Jon was delighted to see lizard lions swimming in the swamp. Although he had made sure not to get too close, he liked his fingers too much. Their travels had gone smoothly, and Jaime had taken the time to speak to him and spar with him. He called him his page. But most of his duties seemed to be those of a squire. Although the armor was too heavy and hard to lift, he still did his best and kept it clean, enjoying the words of praise he received from Jaime for doing so. His favorite times, though, were the stories Jaime would tell after they'd finished sparring. Sir Arthur faced down the Smiling Knight, their two swords moving faster and faster, and then with a loud crash the Smiling Knight's sword broke. Arthur, chivalrous as ever, paused the fight and allowed him to pick up another sword. "It's you, sword, I want, Sir Arthur," the Smiling Knight said, pointing at Dawn. "Then you shall have it, sir," Arthur replied. The two blades clashed again and again. The knight was skilled, but Arthur was an artist, the finest swordsman I've ever seen, perhaps the greatest ever. It was inevitable he would win, and win he did, slaying the Smiling Knight and bringing to an end the Kingswood Brotherhood. "He knighted. You didn't, my lord." "Aye, that he did, lad. Proudest day of my life was being knighted by the Sword of the Morning, the finest knight, the finest man I ever knew." Jaime told Jon more stories as they traveled. He told him of Sir Barristan defeating Maelys, the monstrous ending the Blackfire line. He told him of the rogue prince jumping from his dragon, Caraxes to slay Aemond above the God's Eye. But it was the tales of Aemon. The Dragon Knight that caught Jon's attention the most, a true knight and Kingsguard. Things continued along in this vein as they passed through the Twins. Jon shuddered as he remembered Jaime dealing with Walder Frey and the toll they had to pay to pass. Finally, they reached Seaguard, where they would take a ship to Lannisport. The Lannisters were surprisingly welcome, considering they were Tully bannermen, and he was the bane of their liege lord's daughter's life. "My lord, why are we taking a ship?" he asked as they waited in a tavern near the docks. "I've been away too long, and it'll be moons more if we travel overland. From here, though, a ship will have us in Lannisport within the moon, and it's just a short ride to the Rock from there." "What's the Rock like, my lord?" "Ah, how to explain it? It's unlike any castle in Westeros, and I've missed it more than I thought I would. But as for the rest, my boy, well, you're going to have to wait until we get there. Wouldn't want to ruin the surprise now, would we?" He smirked as Jon frowned at him. He ruffled his hair, forcing a smile, and then nudged his shoulder, nearly forcing him to fall to finally get a laugh from him. The time spent on the ship was something he wished he could forget. He wasn't built for sea travel, and Jaime took great pleasure in doing his best to rub it in. Although given how sick he got, he stopped after a while and became concerned for him. It was different for Jon to have someone look after him and worry as much as Jaime did. He brought the cold water and towels to place on Jon's head himself, and even though Jon really didn't want to eat, Jaime made sure he got some food in his stomach every day. When they eventually reached Lannisport, he could have kissed the ground. He resolved to never set foot on a ship again if he could help it, but knew that it was likely to be necessary sometime. Lannisport was incredible to see, especially for a boy who thought Wintertown was large. The streets were paved, and the amount of people was mind-blowing. As he walked with Jaime, they were often forced to stop as people addressed the new shield of Lannisport, just one of the many titles Jaime now held. "Good afternoon, my lord. Pleased to see you, my lord. Best of health to you. Sir Jaime, I mean my lord." Jaime nodded and smiled where appropriate, but just like he could see the frown on Jon's face. He too was tired of the delays that these niceties caused. He was happy when they finally reached the escort that his uncle Kevin had sent, even more pleased to see Sir Adam was there, but even more pleased to see his uncle Gerion leading it. "Finally, the lion returns," his uncle said, his usual sarcasm evident. "Aye, looks like I came just in time, uncle. Why, you're looking positively dreadful." "Little Joy has been unwell. I'm sorry to hear it, uncle." "Well, never mind. It's good to have you back, my lord." He shook his head as his uncle grabbed him in an embrace. If even Gerion was being formal, this was going to be a nightmare. He turned to Jon, who was standing there quietly, taking it all in, looking around at the strange city and stranger people. Well, Gerion was strange. Adam, not so much. He looked overawed. "Uncle, may I introduce my new page and soon-to-be squire?" "Ah, so that's who the lad is. Been wondering that since I got here. Has the look of a northerner. What's your name, lad?" Gerion asked as Jon stepped forward. Jon Snow, my lord," Jon said nervously. "Well, young Master Snow, don't let this one overwork you." He bent down to whisper in his ear. He wasn't a very good page himself. "You know, don't let him fool ya." He laughed as he patted the boy on the shoulder. "Well, shall we? Your brother is waiting, as are your uncles. Be aware, though the new Lord of Casterly Rock needs to be presented, so it'll be a bit of palaver. Never let it be said we Lannisters are subtle or unassuming," his uncle said before laughing loudly. "Now where the hell did I leave my damn horse?" Jaime smiled. It was good to be back, good to see his uncle again. If there was one thing he knew, with Gerion around, things wouldn't be dull. They walked to their horses and began the trek to Casterly Rock. He was pleased to see Adam talking to Jon, who looked enraptured listening to him. God knows what tales he'd tell the boy. But still, it was nice of his to take the time. "That's Ned Stark's bastard, isn't it?" "Aye, it is, uncle." "How in the hell did you get Ned Stark to let you take his bastard as a page? Actually, scratch that. Why in the hell did you take him as a page? Actually, never mind, I don't want to know. Just tell me this. How are you going to explain it to Kevin and the lords that you have a bastard as a page?" "I'm the warden of the West, uncle. My days explaining are over." Finally, they crested the small hill where he knew they see the castle for the first time. He motioned to Adam to send Jon over. As the boy rode towards him, he smiled. This is it. This is where it begins. This is where he fulfills his promise. And God help anyone. Welcome to the Rock.